Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live. Talk radio without the static. Email your questions and comments to lynncullenshow@gmail.com. And now your host, Lynn Cullen.
And good post-election morning to you. Mostly good. The one I really was rooting for, though, didn't make it. And that is Dugan over Zappala, and it's just too bad. Too damn bad that the voters don't understand the importance of that position and the fact that one man has held it for as long as anyone can remember. And if he had the right ideas as to crime in our area that so many seem so concerned about, then wouldn't it have gotten a lot better under this tough DA that Zappala says he is? I mean, he ran essentially as if his entire time in office he had failed and warned that a Dugan, a reformer, would unleash hordes of, from the ads, black men with guns into the community. Unbelievable. And I'm just sad that turned out to be a compelling argument. But leave it to me to start with a negative when overall, yesterday's election, both locally, statewide, and nationally, was a good one for Democrats and a not good one for Republicans. And so it goes. Despite the narrative, the media cannot quit. It's the media and this trope they have of Democrats in disarray and destroying themselves and not speaking to the average voter or whatever. They can't quit it. They think that the only real voters are found in diners in rural America or small town America who vote Republican. It's sort of like a romantic ideal held by, these coastal elites who wouldn't know a real American if they bumped into one, right? So, real Americans, by the way, have you ever noticed they're always white? They're always white. Have you ever seen any of those quotes about, the impending demise of the Democratic Party in which real Americans share their wisdom with us through the eager pens of the journalistic set, and they're always white. Just say it. Okay, so wow, I was scared. I admit it. I think I did admit it. I was really scared that this push by the moneyed establishment of the county to defeat Sarah Innamorato would be successful. There was so much money thrown in to that race. I mean, she was outspent. I don't know how much. I haven't seen the exact numbers, but hugely outspent. Because the one thing that Rocky and the Republicans had going for them was a lot of money. And she prevailed. And it'll be interesting to see how she will be able to change things. It'll be interesting to see what form that will take. It is a true changing of the guard for the establishment that has run and controlled the past, present, and future of the county to be sidelined, truly, like this. Zappala being the only one left standing, and let it be known he is one embittered person left standing. He will make as much trouble as he can for mayor, for the county executive, I am sure, going forward, because he strikes me as that's the kind of guy he is. I really think Rocky and his crowd thought they would win. I guess they, around in my neighborhood, which is usually solidly Democrat, I saw so many Rocky signs that it scared me. And I didn't see that. I mean, Rocky signs. Maybe I saw them because every time I saw one, it made me nervous. But turns out that some of the folks who live in the big houses in the East End are, Republicans. Or they're Democrats who are scared of people who want to give more power to the unempowered, the historically unempowered, to give priority to the lives of the unempowered as opposed to the constantly empowered. And that's what the government here has always done. Always. It's something I have found really maddening. They have served the governments I have seen here. They serve the corporate world. They serve the powerful, the people who, the real estate developers. There's always this assumption that a building going up is like a sign of progress, when in fact, that is not necessarily the case. It's what does that building mean? What will that building house? Who will that building truly help? And I am hoping that Sarah Innamorato will prove to be as much a visionary and doer as she has in her relatively short career shown herself to be. She really, just following, just reading about her from the first time you heard of her. Every election she has taken on, she's won. And then she's won again in a bigger pond. And it's been, in many ways, politically a meteoric rise. And I think we'll see. We'll see. It's a new ball game, and it'll be interesting. But it's high time that the white guys, I'm sorry, guys, let somebody else have a chance. Doesn't mean that a black candidate or a female candidate is better than any white male candidate, but I suspect you know what I'm saying. And I'm hoping that new faces, new minds, new ambitions that will have more access to power and political priorities, policies will end up making a stronger and more vital and more inclusive county. So, I don't. Here's where, not having the usual talking heads that I would normally have listened to on local stuff available as much to me as I have. I'm not going to go into any granular stuff about it. I'm sure many of you are ahead of me on that. But I breathed a true sigh of relief with the Supreme Court, the Pennsylvania Supreme Court victory. That victory is huge, given the fact that there will be a number of upcoming elections and the possibility of Republicans essentially taking control of the Pennsylvania Supreme Court with a win last night would have been a true possibility, not immediately, but a true possibility. And they've been held off. And this given, again, think of abortion, think of the ads. Oh, and thank God we won't have those ads. Oh, you can go back to watching your TV or listening to the radio if you do. Those abortion. Wow. Think of the ads that you saw in the Pennsylvania Supreme Court race. They were often, abortion played a huge role, especially in the attempt to take down the Republican candidate. And the abortion stuff, wow, it continues to, batting 1,000. Ohio, wow, we were worried yesterday. I was much less worried after Milton sent in the exact wording that people who voted in Ohio saw, because it still clearly was saying that if you want women and their doctors, if you think women and their doctors are the ones who should be deciding these issues, then vote yes. And overwhelmingly, the voters of that red state, which is only in many ways as red as it is because of the way Republicans handle power, or the gerrymandering, the effort to purge voter rolls, the machinations that you saw heading into the abortion amendment. It's just astonishing. Once they get power, man, they do anything to hold on to it, which of course we saw play out nationally on January 6th. So I don't know. I got so the fact that now Dan McCaffrey is seated on the Supreme Court here, the seat vacated by Max Bayer's premature death. This is really important because now the makeup of the court at the moment will be 5 Democrats and 2 Republicans. And this court has been at the center of so many important cases involving elections, like a certain disputed one, I think we all recall, and involving guns and involving abortion rights. It was the democratically controlled Pennsylvania Supreme Court that it was like a year, 2 years ago, threw out the Republicans' attempt to gerrymander Pennsylvania in their favor as flagrantly as Ohio did. And the Supreme Court here made clear that what they had done was unconstitutional. And they also rejected Republican efforts to overturn the presidential election in 2020. The Supreme Court, the democratically controlled Supreme Court, upheld the constitutionality of the more expansive mail-in voting law that was passed, and came down over and over and over again on the side of a more liberal interpretation of voting laws, when votes could be counted, how votes could be cast. Another thing they did, it's not the thing, because this is what Republicans can't bear: voting. Because when people vote, they so often lose. So just to recollect and to show again the importance of McCafferty's win yesterday, in 2020, the Supreme Court of Pennsylvania, in the Trump election, ordered that mail-in ballots received up to 3 days after the polls closed would be counted. Now, this is the kind of thing that would make a Republican's head explode. But the Democrats on the court said, look, we're in a pandemic. There are delays in mail service. If a person has voted prior to the end of the election, we should err on the side, certainly, of having their ballot, their vote, count. Not because a post office, understaffed, wasn't able to get the ballot to the county. The Republicans went apeshit. They took it immediately to the Supreme Court of the United States of America. And unbelievably, that court declined to hear the case. And so, another win for democracy. I want to say also in regard to Ohio, and why didn't I know this? I didn't know there was a marijuana thing on their ballot too. That wasn't issue 1, which was the abortion one, which we were so aware of. It was, who knew, issue 2. Why don't we ever get issues like that? And this is nuts. This shows how incredibly sclerotic Pennsylvania state government is legislatively. It cannot get, we are surrounded now, aren't we? Pretty much. Don't know what, West Virginia hasn't legalized pot yet, has it? Recreational. But states around us have. And I'll tell you, as close as we are to the Ohio border, I can see me taking a quick little trip over the border, having all my dollars go into the coffers of Ohio state government, which I'd rather not. But I do like marijuana. And if I can't get it here legally, then I'll drive 45 minutes to a place where I won't be breaking the law. And again, the voters gave the middle finger to the Republicans who control their state. Anytime something is directly put to the voters of Ohio, abortion access, marijuana access, they show that this so-called red state is populated by an awful lot of people who want to do what they want to do, and they don't want government telling them they can't. This was the Republicans in Ohio must just be, I'm sad about Dugan. I can't even imagine how they're feeling. They lost overwhelmingly. The governor lost. I'm not saying he was up, but everything he was for lost. The business sector, which was against the marijuana thing, it lost. And then the busybody anti-abortion crowd lost in the red state of Ohio. I forget how many counties, and it was a lot that I read that Trump had carried significantly in 2020 in Ohio. Overwhelmingly supported these two issues. And yet the media is always talking about Democrats being out of step. I'll give up. A former Republican, there's more and more of those around, and they have turned out to be my favorite talking head types, former Republicans and or writers. When I tell you that, I just love everything that Tom Nichols writes in The Atlantic, I didn't know he was a Republican, former. And Charlie Sykes, also, he was a right-wing radio personality, I think, out of Milwaukee. And he's just, in that regard, Trump has pulled all of these really smart people out of the Republican Party and into my sphere, I feel. And I feel enriched for that. And I'll thank Donald Trump that I've ever done that before. But here are some thoughts from Charlie Sykes on the election. In regard to abortion, he said, my God, Ohio, the vote wasn't even close. And then there was Virginia. Remember how every time I read something about Virginia and Youngton, I thought, oh my God. Youngton, who's trying to pretend he's some kind of a moderate is, first of all, doing this because he wants to be a president and he's trying to save the Republican Party from the Trumpers. And so he figured out this sort of abortion control light that he thought would work, a 15-week ban. And also, the entire legislature in Virginia was up for re-election. How the hell do they let something like that? Seems odd. That everybody, all the senators, all the reps, everybody's fighting for their life at the same time, so that both houses were up for grabs. And he was hoping, and they were close, and he was hoping that the Republicans would take control of both houses. He would look like a brilliant politician threading a needle that would help Republicans, and yeehaw! It didn't work. In fact, the voters in Virginia now have, admittedly, a Republican governor, a chastened Republican governor named Glenn Youngkin. And they also have a legislature controlled by Democrats. Both houses were taken by the Democrats. Then you have this unusual thing in Kentucky. It's interesting, and it shows that the way we think about politics and voters must be more nuanced. The fact that this deeply red state has reelected their Democratic governor, who is about as popular a governor as exists in this country. And he is popular because of his record. And it's not a right-wing record. It's a record that cares about Kentuckians. And he is able not only to do that with a Republican legislature, with senators like Mitch McConnell and that god-awful, why am I blanking, Rand Paul. Those are Kentucky politicians. That's how red that state is. And yet here is this fresh-faced, beloved Democrat. And sure, we're going to be hearing a lot about these new crops of Democratic governors. There is a bench. There are people we have who are capable, who are in their 40s and their 50s and ready for national leadership. And they tend to be governors. I can start naming names. The governor, Whitmer in Michigan, Brashear in Kentucky, Pritzker in Illinois, Shapiro in Pennsylvania, and on and on and on. There's a rich bunch of capable Democrats. We just got to get through this year. So, would things be so different if Biden, I mean, I don't understand, again, the polls, another poll came out showing Biden losing again to Trump. And yet, every time voters go to the polls, the Democrats, not always, but they tend to win. I mean, these lunatic Republicans, the Trumpers, are losing over and over and over again. those disgusting women, Moms for Liberty, the ones that have created all of this contention in school boards across the country, who have terrorized libraries and librarians. Moms for Liberty, they lost all over the place. Take another red state, Iowa. They had endorsed 13 candidates and really went to work for them so they could turn around school. I can't imagine any like flaming liberal school boards in Iowa, but they were out to make these MAGA school boards. And out of 13 endorsed candidates, 12 of their candidates lost. 12 of the 13 lost. And so what do we see here? The extremism of this thing called the Republican Party isn't going down well with voters. They don't like it. They don't like it. And even people trying to thread the needle, like Youngkin, who becomes, like, again, media need stories. They need compelling stories. They need stories that make you anxious. And they're good at that. That's what they do. And so they're always looking for things like this to terrorize certain groups, usually people like me. So there was this thing about Youngkin. Well, Charlie Sykes says it best. The Youngkin boom, it's dead. I mean, my God, the loss of his own legislature sent him to a rapidly filling unicorn graveyard. And he says this, this is Man Iglesias, explaining how Kentuckians can go to the polls and elect Rand Paul, Mitch McConnell, and then Andy Beshear as governor. And Iglesias says, here's what you got to remember. Swing voters, these people we hear about all the time who have so much power, swing voters are real. Every state has a median voter. Politics is mostly about persuasion, not base mobilization. If I agree with that. Anyway, he says, and the old-fashioned Democratic Party pitch about Medicaid, public education, abortion rights, that has legs. That works in places where the National Party is dead. Thanks to, and he says, thanks to climate politics and racial issues. So, wow. So he's saying that Democrats, what kills us is that it ain't like we can abandon fighting for the climate. And it ain't like we can stop fighting for racial equality. But we can do so a lot more smartly. And that is where I think our left has gotten us into. I mean, I will say until I'm blue in the face that it is the extreme left of our side that has given gift after gift after gift to the Republicans. Because again, if it's all about creating a narrative that will scare the bejeebers out of your base, then the leftist branch of Democrats have a great propensity to wrap up these gifts and send them off to the Republican National Committee. But MAGA, Donald Trump, that doesn't look like it's got, who knows? We'll see. We'll see. Also, just want to say that, again, Charlie Sykes speaking, he says, expect a big push from Biden's allies to reset and reframe. As one Biden advisor said last night, I have a hard time squaring all the negativity around the president and his agenda, and then the continued performance tonight in Kentucky and all the other special elections in 23. The best predictor of voting behavior is voting behavior. We'll see. Is there anything else I haven't? I don't know. Ohio, 20 more affordable housing. Oh, another thing I want to mention, and I saw that this was on the ballot in some states. These are issues that we are not addressing as a country, and it is bedeviling us, and it is, I think, showing us to be not very humane or proactive, and that is two issues: homelessness and affordable housing, and they go together. And I know a lot of people have swallowed whole this factoid that homelessness is a result of mental illness and or drug addiction. And while those two things play into, I'm sure, quite a bit of homelessness, it is by no means a lot of homelessness in this country is because people in this country live in urban areas where they simply cannot afford to find a roof to put over their and their children's heads. And we seem to be counterproductive about this. So when, again, like even Democratic local politicians just go nuts about, new development in East Liberty and big buildings going up, and look at this, and ain't that wonderful? And nobody's looking at the reality of what that's doing to people who are just barely hanging on in those what used to be affordable neighborhoods, but now are no longer. We have become just brilliant. And Democrats as well, at pushing people out of their neighborhoods and homes and getting many of them to the point where they simply cannot find a place to live. You can push and push and push until you push them so far out that there is literally no way for them to get to the low-paying jobs they may have because they don't have cars and require public transportation. These are all the kinds of issues that a Sarah in Amarato and it's why I was saying this is good, that there will finally be a reset, that there will actually be people in power who understand that the number one priority is not giving more tax cuts, tax rebates, tax stimuluses to the rich. It's a kind of trickle-down crap. Oh, yeah, we'll let you build. In my neighborhood, they keep building more and more things. And now the government insists that if those are for apartments and condos and stuff, then what? 8%, 6% of them have to be affordable? Oh, the generosity overwhelms me. But I did see that voters in Seattle and in Santa Fe had on their ballots initiatives to fund more affordable housing. I had no idea specifically about what those initiatives were, but at least there were two cities that got on the ballot and in front of their voters the question of, is this something you think we need to prioritize? In both Santa Fe and in Seattle, voters said yes. Not so much in Spokane, Washington, where there was a measure that would allow police to cite people who camp near parks and schools and playgrounds. And that is that one. So there are people who see the homeless as a threat. And there are people who see the homeless as people in need. And who see the complexity of the situation. And a lot of this has to do, again, with media and how it frames these stories. Our local media is abysmal on this. Abysmal. Okay, what else do I have here? I have so much stuff. I don't know where to start. Okay, this funny thing about, I'm serious. I told you this the other day. I thought at first, this can't be true because, you have to be exceedingly skeptical now about anything you see anywhere. And it turns out it is true that the new Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, has no bank account. Now, apparently, somebody has now uncovered, and let me find this. Okay. In all of his, he has to, as an office holder, say what he's got and all this. And in all of his financial disclosures, he first of all says he has zero assets. Well, okay. He has no retirement accounts, no money market funds, no stocks, not even a basic checking account or a savings account. Even the disclosures have never listed any checking or savings accounts on any of the forms he has filed going back to 2016 when he was first elected to the Congress. Now, for most of us, that is so bizarre that it begs some explanation. And we're yet to get one. I mean, where is he depositing his sizable congressional salary? Does he take that big check and go to one of those check cashing places that then takes a cut? I mean, how does he pay his bills? In cash? It begs a ton of questions. He has said this: we have a lot of expenses. We have 4 or 5 children, depending on whether on any given day he's counting this poor black kid he apparently kind of, sort of, but not really adopted. And so you gotta wonder what the hell. I mean, most people who do not have a bank account are, well, the exceedingly poor. But this guy, as I said, is making, as speaker, almost a quarter. Well, he's making essentially $250,000 a year. Okay, now that just happened, but before that, he was making $174,000. Okay, and then he gets another $30,000 from Liberty University, where of course he teaches. His wife has a bunch of gigs too. None of those things have been. So anyway, at the end of this one thing, somebody did finally come up with an addendum, I think. Johnson's office, it said, did not respond to questions about his financial disclosures. And then, this is it, early Tuesday morning, yesterday morning, Politico has reported, and here's the new stuff, that his office did tell Politico's reporter, that Johnson does indeed have a bank account. But he has a bank account that does not pay interest, which makes it exempt from House disclosure rules. And I gotta say, if that's true, that begs a lot more questions. That doesn't make any sense. And this guy now, but for the beating hearts of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, would be president of the United States. Just saying. Where's media on this one? Huh? The only thing I saw in media today about this creep, everything about him is creepy. I won't even get into this thing he has with his teenage son, where they both agreed to monitor each other's porn intake. Don't even ask. Well, they do it because, of course, neither of them would ever intake porn, is what I think it is. But whatever. He bragged about it to somebody. Do you know that we're 10 days away from a government shutdown? Doesn't even make the news anymore. Remember when you used to say things like, we're just 6 weeks away from a potential government shutdown, and you would like, oh, and the stories of horror that we're heading into. And now, I got news for you guys. Knock, knock. It is 10 days, because the last time these idiots, that's synonym for Republicans, that these idiots took us to the brink. Actually, that was just hours. We were hours away from a government shutdown. And then they managed to narrowly avoid it, which I believe is what cost, right, Kevin McCarthy his job? That was it, I think. And now here we go. They only, funded it we're funded for 10 more days. And here we got the non-bank account holding Mike Johnson in charge, and he doesn't want to go the way that Kevin McCarthy did. So what the hell is he going to pull out of his hat? There was a quote here from him, which made me howl. It said this: Mr. Johnson said House Republicans would reveal their plan to fund the government, quote, in short order. Would somebody please tell Mr. Johnson that it's already short order, 10 days? And also, would somebody tell Mr. Johnson we know a dodge when we hear one, and we know he doesn't have a plan. God. Ed writes, do you think Zapala was helped significantly from a Marty Griffin, oh God, revelation, in a commercial of a photo of a sign of Matt Dugan that supposedly said, fuck the police? Yeah, I saw that ad. And I haven't seen anything from the Dugan people. Doesn't mean it isn't out there that says it was a lie. But my guess is that would have been pretty big. So Marty, he did have, there was a fuzzy picture taken, yes, of up he had fuck the police, I guess. Not, I understand why somebody at times would say that, but that's not, I think that could have been it. Sure didn't help him. And if it was apocryphal, I would think we would know that. But it's a good point, Ed. I know that when I saw that ad, my heart sunk. It did. Because I thought, wow, the DA does have to work with the police. There has to be some kind of a major relationship there. And the guy running as the chief prosecutor, having a sign in his office saying, fuck the police, is not helpful if you want to win an election. So I think you're onto something there. I mean, who knows? Without that, if I don't know. There's also people who, Zapala. I mean, that name has been on the ballot, since some folks were in diapers. So I don't know. Could be. Was that a sigh? I believe it was. Okay, so here's a few more things that I just want to. I don't know if this is getting. Is this getting? See, I don't. I have. Maybe I have to force myself to start watching local TV news. I just have it on in the background, and then if something, I'm talking to myself here, something interests you could, whatever. Okay, a few things I saw that I just wanted to share with you. Something Bernie Sanders said that I think blew the minds of a lot of his supporters. He said this on CNN, State of the Union, Sunday. He said this, quote, "I don't know how you can have a ceasefire, permanent ceasefire, with an organization like Hamas, which is dedicated to turmoil and chaos and destroying the state of Israel." That's Bernie Sanders. No friend of Israel's. But no friend of Hamas, and somebody who is seeing the reality that the Israelis face. Now, I'm assuming that the operative word there is permanent. The quote being, "I don't know how you can have a ceasefire, permanent ceasefire, with Hamas, which is dedicated to blah, 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 and destroying the state of Israel." And it says here, the comments drew backlash from progressive activists. Progressive activists are, man, who's more sputtering angry all the time? Progressive activists or MAGA base? People who live to be, sputteringly enraged at all times. Not that there isn't plenty of reason, I'm sure. So it says that national Jewish groups have put out a call for a mass march for Israel in Washington, D.C. on November 14. That would be a week away. That'd be during November 14. Isn't that a weekday? How are people supposed to do that? November 14. I mean, people have to, it's during the week. Next Tuesday. I don't know. Well, I hope it's big. My marching days are over because I can't. I would like to march for them, but I can't be there because I can't stand and walk that long. But what I think's sad about this is I think the crowd will be mostly made up of just Jews. And that's my guess. Whereas the marches for Palestinians those aren't all Palestinians, I assure you. Oh, thank you, Russ. Here, hang on. The sign in the "fuck the police" was in one of Dugan's subordinates' offices. Dugan stated in an interview that once he found out about it, it was there for literally another 10 seconds. He did address it on the air. I believe the caller questioned him about it. Okay. Well, that makes more sense to me because he's too smart a man okay. So then it was, the ad was misleading and disingenuous if it said it was Dugan's office. Right? It wasn't his office. And in fact, if Dugan is right here, he told the guy, get that down. Well, that makes more sense in terms of Marty's MO. So I thank you for that. Yeah. God, well, the ad did the damn. I mean, that doesn't discount what Ed thought and what I thought. That and that ad hit late. I think not that I watch enough TV to know that, but I saw it really late in the cycle. But Russ, thank you for that, and I appreciate it. Thank you all, by the way. And a thank you for you laggards who sent me your emails. I got another big haul, but that, guys, I mean, we're well into the hundreds and hundreds, but I know there's more of you. So please, just in case. And yeah, clock's a ticking, and I would just feel really comfortable if I had. And just because you've emailed me in the past, don't think that does it. It doesn't do it. That's long ago. Everything is. I'm one of those idiots who like trashes everything. I just want a clean slate as much as I can. So please, I would like some emails, and just send them to Lynn Cullen Show at gmail.com. Okay. Thank you. Have a good one. Talk at you tomorrow.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Thursday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper or its advertisers.